Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're going to be talking about Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky and why you should read it if you haven't already. So somebody recently commented on one of my videos that I should do book reviews on this channel. I've been meaning to do that for a while. I'm not going to title them reviews because I don't consume a lot of modern books, a lot of new books. I tend to feel that that title review fits more for new media. So I'm going to make these videos called Why You Should Read Blank. Hopefully I can get them out every week for you guys. It's a big goal of mine on this channel to promote reading, especially amongst young men. So with that all out of the way, let's talk about Crime and Punishment. So, Crime and Punishment was written in 1866. It originally came out in 12 installments in the Russian Messenger. It's obviously in one volume now. The page count kind of varies. This copy that I have is about 560 pages. I've seen copies that go all the way up to like 700-800 pages. The translations do vary, and if you don't read or know any Russian, you might be a little bit lost on which translation's the best. For myself, somebody who's learning Russian right now, I find that the Richard Pivar and Larissa Volokonsky translation to me captures the Russian spirit the best, so this is the one that I would recommend. But if you guys want a full breakdown comparing the different translations, I can make that in a separate video. I'm not going to do that today, though. I'm just going to talk about the book itself. There's a couple famous people who regard this book as either their favorite book of all time or one of their favorite books of all time. I'm going to go through a quick list of them right now. Albert Camus, Sigmund Freud, Franz Kafka, Friedrich Nietzsche, Jean-Paul Sartre, Leo Tolstoy, a contemporary to Dostoevsky, Ayn Rand, Virginia Woolf, Ernest Hemingway, obviously Jordan Peterson, and like I said, myself, all of us hold this book as our favorite books. So a couple quotes too. Nietzsche once said of this book that it is one of the most powerful and significant works in the world of literature. Sigmund Freud said about Crime and Punishment that it represents the best, most vivid case study of the psychology of guilt and morality. So high praise from some very, very smart men. Now I'm going to go over the plot very quickly. I'm not going to spoil anything. When I do these Why You Should Read videos, I'm not going to include any spoilers. If I do a full book analysis video, then I'll get into the plot. I'll kind of pull it apart chapter by chapter, maybe even paragraph by paragraph. Those videos I'll do in the future sometime. They're going to take me a lot of time to make, so I'm not going to make them yet. But in these videos, I'll keep it spoiler-free. So here's a quick summary of the plot of Crime and Punishment. Rodion Raskolnikov, a penniless former student, concocts a theory that extraordinary individuals have the right to commit immoral acts for a greater good. Driven by poverty and his belief in his superiority, he murders an old pawnbroker, hoping to use her wealth for a better future. However, the act plunges him into a psychological hell of guilt and paranoia, where his mind unravels under the weight of his conscience. Throughout, Raskolnikov encounters Sonia, a selfless woman who embodies faith and redemption, forcing him to confront his moral decay. Ultimately, the novel examines the conflict between intellectual pride and human compassion, drawing readers into a deep psychological exploration of morality, justice, and redemption. I think that's the best way to summarize this book. It's incredibly deep. I've read very few books that are deeper than this book. I don't think this is Dostoevsky's greatest novel. I think that's The Brothers Karamazov, which I'll talk about in a future video. But for me, this is my personal favorite, and it hits home for me. I've never, in my 24 years of existence, come across a writer who burrows himself more in my head than Dostoevsky. It feels like he lives in my head when I read his works. It feels like he's had every single thought I've ever had, and the way he articulates it too in ways that I can't do myself. It feels like he's had every single dark thought I've had. It feels like he knows my darkest secrets. It's weird reading Dostoevsky. He's in your head. Similarly, to make a comparison, when you read Tolstoy, it feels like he's had every single conversation you ever had. It feels like he picks up on every little nuance in every single social interaction you've ever had, and he writes it down. And it's brilliant. You know, Tolstoy's more of the sociologist, and Dostoevsky's more of the psychologist. They're kind of the mother and father of literature, and I do hold them as kind of the greatest writers of all time. Maybe second to Shakespeare. It's kind of hard to top Shakespeare, but this book, man, has impacted me in such a deep way. The first time I read it, I got to the end, and I was crying, like shedding tears. I think my first copy of this book, I still have the tear marks in the book. Even when I go back and reread it, there's still passages that make me tear up. It's incredibly gripping, it's emotionally moving, and it's to me the best book that I've ever read. It's my favorite book. I'm going to go over the film adaptations very quickly. For all these why you should read videos, I'll mention a couple film adaptations if I think they're worth watching. I'm somebody who loves film myself. I cover film on this channel. I've done a couple film analysis videos already. So I'm going to mention one of the film adaptations of Crime and Punishment that I do like. There's over 40 film adaptations of this book. It's a very popular book. Most of them are pretty low budget, low quality. I don't actually recommend watching them, but there is one that I really like. It's Crime and Punishment from 1970, directed by Lev Kulichkanov. It runs 221 minutes long. It's in black and white and obviously in Russian, so I understand why that might not be the most appealing to some people. But if you read this book, I feel like you're going to want to watch a movie about it because it's a piece of media like no other. And if you can get over the Russian names, that's really the only hump. You might be thinking, like, how interesting is a book from the 1800s? Like, how interesting can it really be if it was written over 150 years ago? Well, most of the greatest literature of all time came from the 1800s, so never put that as a turnoff in your mind. Some of the greatest books of all time were written in the 1800s, and they're still incredibly relatable. You can read works from Shakespeare that are incredibly relatable, right? The only barrier to entry, I would say, with reading Russian literature is the Russian names. There are some big names. They're hard to pronounce. If you don't speak any Russian, they can be hard to sound out, and you have to memorize quite a few of them. So if you can get over that hump, you're gonna be in for a treat, because I truly believe this is one of the greatest novels of all time. I believe every man should read this book. Every person should read this book, I should say. And yeah, I hope you guys go out there and read it. If you go out there and you read it because of this video, please come back to this video. Let me know your thoughts on it. Try not to spoil it for anybody who might be reading the comments. If you have already read the book, let me know in the comments why you love the book. Let me know maybe which books you want to see covered next on this series. Like I said, I'm going to try to put out one of these videos every week. And yeah, that's all I have for today, you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, it means the world to me. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.